There's some very nice seats in the front here. It's wonderful to see everybody, lots of old friends and some new friends. So I'd like to welcome you to this evening on behalf of Birmingham Council of Faiths and the Al-Mahdi Institute. It's going to be an evening of celebration and interfaith exchange. My name, for those who don't know, is Ruth Tetlow. My connection with this place is that I was a tutor here for 7 years when it was the United College of the Ascension. It was an Anglican and Methodist college training Christians for mission in all parts of the world for many years. I'm also here because I'm a senior advisor for the Birmingham Council of Faiths and the coordinator of the Faith Encounter program here in the West Midlands. And we meet, as I'm sure most of you know, in National Interfaith Week. But also, it's a week where many of us have been at gatherings of people of all faiths to offer prayers for those who have suffered as a result of violence. Sadly, in many parts of the world, but particularly lately in Baghdad, Beirut, and Paris. Gatherings which have sought to dissociate all people of faith from such atrocities. It's not the purpose of this evening, so I'm not going to mention it again, but it's bound to be in our minds. Before we go any further, I just need to do some practicalities. I hope you don't mind that Roxana wants to film the proceedings this evening. If anybody does mind, please let her know. She's just coming back in a minute. Roxana is the Education and Outreach Officer. Have I got it right, Roxana? For the Al-Mahdi Institute. And we're just welcoming Sheikh Arif, the principal of the Institute, who's just joined us, which is great. The other practicality, apart from the filming, everybody's happy with the filming, I think, Roxana, nobody's objecting? Okay. If anybody needs a toilet, there's a toilet, just go outside of, and on the right, and there's also one upstairs if you need it. And if there should be a fire alarm, then the exit's clearly marked. You go out the way you've just come in. So, this evening is an occasion of great symbolism and significance to many of us. It's an occasion when we're going to present these 3 paintings that used to hang in this space when it was the chapel of the United College of the Ascension to 3 new homes. Those of us who were associated with that college, known as UCA, want to express our warm appreciation of the welcome that we've been given and many other people have been given by the Al-Mahdi Institute since they've been here to people of all faiths, continuing the tradition built up by the former college. That continuity is a great joy to me, and I'm sure it is to many of us. There's had to be a change in the programme tonight, which partly appears on the programme you've got in front of you, because unfortunately the parish priest of St Mary's Church, Selly Oak, the Reverend Jim Cox, is ill in hospital, and neither he nor the church choir, who we hoped were going to sing for us, can be here tonight. So let us all remember him in our prayers. However, the church warden, Kate Cheney, and both church wardens are here with us, and Kate is going to receive the painting on behalf of St Mary's and has also offered to sing a song of blessing for us at the end, which is wonderful. And in addition, instead of the choir, we have Heidi Mulrain, whose father, the Reverend George Mulrain, was deeply involved in the former college. She's also a member of Selly Oak Methodist Church, and she has also agreed to sing for us, which is also wonderful. So that's the introductions. I'd now like to ask Mujahid Khalfan from the Al-Mahdi Institute to open our program with a recitation from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you very much.
I'd now like to introduce to those who don't know him already, the Reverend Donald Eady, who's here. Donald is, besides being a friend of mine, a retired Methodist minister, former chair of the Methodist World Church Committee, and he was closely involved with the former college, and particularly in the restoration of this space that we're enjoying tonight, when it was restored to be a more beautiful college chapel. Donald.
I'm so glad to be here tonight, and also a bit nervous because I'm standing rather than sitting for speaking, and so if I fall, pick me up. I want to make a kind of confession to begin with, and that's to say that some of us live our journeys through a series of conversions, and I'm in the middle of another one. And it might become obvious through what I say. I want to talk about taking off our shoes, about kneeling, and about being in the presence of God. In September 2001, the scholarship students from around the world had left their families for a whole year, arrived in the United Kingdom to study at what was then the United College of the Ascension. Those whom we then called mission partners from around Europe and also from the British churches, some with their families, also arrived to study, preparing to live and work in other parts of the world. They all arrived in Birmingham at a time when the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York lay in smouldering ruins, and waves of fear washed over every shore, and the rhetoric of revenge adding terror to terror. They arrived at the United College of the Ascension to find no comfortable, well-carpeted chapel to provide stillness and prayer at the heart of the community, for the chapel was a noisy, messy building site. And for many months the offering of community daily prayer was relocated into an overcrowded upper room, which in time also provided its blessings. In June of the following year, the beautifully refurbished chapel was rededicated, and I had the honour of being the preacher on that occasion. I spoke about the nature of God's being, the heartbeat of God, pulsating within all creation, all circumstances, and all people. The mystery of God's Spirit transforming within the stories of the nations, the communities, and our own lives. I spoke of the nature of worship in a world of transition. And I rather precociously, or whatever, chose to speak about our pilgrimage within a worldly, incarnational, sacramental mysticism, and what it might mean to take off our shoes. Etty Hillesum, some of you may know, a remarkable Dutch Jew, speaks of her needing to kneel down within her fragile humanity, her feeling, hurting soul, so that she may remain alive and not be poisoned and deadened by the barbarity of Europe. This place we are now in continues to be a place of prayer, yet in such different circumstances. It is a threshold that I'm not familiar with. And through all the years, Andrew Wingate, Joe Stevens, Roger Hooker, Chris Hewitt, Ruth and Richard Tetler have all encouraged us to take off our shoes in Birmingham's mosques, gurdwaras, temples and synagogues. Yet for me, to come to this place of prayer is to come to a whole new threshold. In the past, it's been a loved place where prayer was real, in a community gathered from every corner of the global village. And here, together, we read our holy scriptures, searched for signs of God's liberating spirit in our world, and dedicated ourselves to walk in the way of Jesus, wherever that may lead. Increasingly, I wonder what God's Spirit is now drawing us towards, drawing us into. When I heard that Andrew and Richard had not unpredictably gone into the basements of this building when they visited it, they discovered 3 of Jyoti's paintings. When I heard this news, something inside me stirred. These paintings could become the means through which our 3 very different communities, the Al-Mahdi Institute, St. Mary's Parish Church, and the Selly Oak Methodist Church, could perhaps be drawn together, each to receive the gift of a painting, and perhaps more, a gift from God through and beyond these paintings. I confess that when I first heard that these buildings were to be bought by the Al-Mahdi Institute and that our much-loved chapel was to become an Islamic place of prayer, I was shaken. But increasingly, however, I have longed to come and to pray here, to be in the presence of God in this place, within the context of the whole of humanity. And the emerging mantra within me, rising and falling, has become, Thou, O Lord, art in our midst. I need also to confess that I have not yet made this journey to pray here, and perhaps tonight is another step. Within the mystery of things, within the last 2 weeks, there have been other steps within this threshold. Cheston and I have just returned from spending 10 days in Turkey with our daughter and her husband, who are living in Turkey. And before flying home, we had 2 days in Istanbul, an ancient and modern city of 15 million people, where Europe and Asia meet. It was in Istanbul that I had an unanticipated encounter. Nicola and Ben had planned to take us to Hagia Sophia, then to the Blue Mosque. Hagia Sophia, as some of you may know, was an early Byzantine church which later became a mosque and later a museum. We joined the queue and bought tickets to go in. My chair was placed on the vast expanse of marble floor under the extraordinary dome, a building that for 900 years was a church, the seat of the Orthodox Patriarchs of Constantinople, the scene of historic deliberations in the councils of the church, the place of imperial rituals, a majestic building full of Byzantine paintings, mosaics on walls and ceilings. In 1453, Sultan Muhammad entered the city and transformed Hagia Sophia into the imperial mosque. The paintings and mosaics were covered over with plaster and painted yellow. In 1932, the Turkish reforming President Kemal Atatürk secularized the mosque and made it into a museum. The plaster covering the paintings and mosaics was removed, and the great pillars, Islamic calligraphic roundels, were restored. And I sat alone, yet not alone, listening to the history of that building. I have scarcely words to describe that experience. And from deep within me the same mantra came ebbing and flowing, Thou, O Lord, art in our midst. Outside in the sunshine, the sounds of the call to prayer from the Blue Mosque blasted out, with almost cheeky antiphonal echoes from a smaller mosque near to Hagia Sophia. The Blue Mosque is across the square from Hagia Sophia, and my chair was placed first in the great courtyard near to the entrance, where Muslims from all over the world congregated, quietly mixing and mingling, then quietly joining the queue to take off their shoes and to pray. I sat for an hour on my own, yet not on my own, gazing, wondering, pondering. And a huge African Muslim came towards me, bent over me, beaming with such warmth and saying, Salam. I was blessed. Those of us who were not Muslims joined the queue at a different entrance, where no tickets were sold. We were asked to respect the Blue Mosque as a holy place, so women were asked to cover their heads and all of us to take off our shoes. We entered a place of prayer. Women behind screened enclosures, men prostrating themselves on lush carpets under the magnificent dome. My chair was situated close to the prayer area for men. And again I sat and gazed and wondered and pondered. I confess that I need help to comprehend the separation of women and men at prayer. And again the mantra returned, ebbing and flowing. Thou, O Lord, art in our midst. I prepared for this evening with echoes of bombs and screaming in my heart. Suicide bombs in Ankara, Turkey's capital. Only a few weeks ago, 102 killed, 400 injured, of whom we have heard so little in our media. Bombing in Beirut the day before the Paris bombings, and always, always Palestine. Now I ask myself, what does it mean to take off our shoes in the presence of God in such a wondrous yet volatile world? And increasingly I wonder at our neglect, at the prayer of lamentation, our learning to be before God with our grieving and sorrow in solidarity with our sisters and brothers in the worldwide human family. And I wonder if God's Spirit is now calling us into new forms of shared corporate lament. People of faith and those sometimes described as being without faith, but some of them have the most profound faith. We just don't recognize it. People gathering at what Walter Brueggemann calls portable wailing walls. I've tried this evening just to begin to speak of what it might mean to take off our shoes and to kneel and to be in the presence of God. And I want to close by inviting us to share in the silence of this place all the history of this place and all of the history that is now being made in this place, acknowledging our wonder, our gratitude, our grieving, our sorrow, and opening ourselves to receive God's surprising gifts through these 3 Jyoti paintings. But first, we'll share in the silence of this place. Thou, O Lord, art in our midst.
And now I'd like to invite the director of the Al-Mahdi Institute, Sheikh Arif Abdul Hussein, to come and tell us about their vision for the future.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you all. Welcome to you all, and in fact I should say thank you for inviting me. I don't know whether to thank you or to welcome you, but I'm honored to be given this opportunity to talk and to say a few words about our vision. But before you introduce the topic of the vision of Al-Mahdi Institute, I was told by Ruxana that I'm going to talk about the vision for the interfaith community. So whatever comes would be, I presume, from God, as I stand here being the mouthpiece of God. That's just said in jest, yes? These are my own words and they're as fallible as me myself. We, as people of faith, cannot begin to imagine how blessed we are by God through having us within the folds of faith. The presence of God as our Lord, as our Master, who is as at once a parent and an intimate friend. How that makes the human life a very meaningful and purposeful life. It brings quality to life, and we lead each day gaining something of our humanity and actualizing God within us a little bit more than the previous day. It allows us to face challenges of this world with optimism. More than that, the presence of God allows us to see difficulties as opportunities, and through those difficulties to grow. With the passage of time, at least I have learned that the claims of the faith to which I belong have themselves been revised within me through a different kind of faith. The claims of exclusivism of the truth of my religion was replaced by another claim that no, my faith is inclusive of the truth of others. Finally, to come to this understanding that even that is an arrogant statement. For who am I to claim that my faith is inclusive of the claims of other faiths? Truth is equally shared by one and all. In fact, at this age now, one begins to see that even beyond the faith community, it is the same truth that prevails within the hearts of mankind at large. However, what faiths have is not possessed by the community that do not subscribe to faith. We have direct recourse to the teachings of God, and we have the grand examples of the people of God who lived by those teachings. An intimate connection with them makes the life of a faithful a real life, a meaningful life, and a life that can be led through faith. The faith communities need to come together, work together, because each one of us have in our own ways experienced uniquely the truth of God and given it our own unique color. If we do not come together and do not share our perspectives, we are then the cheated people, for we have got a mere glimpse of our beautiful God, and we are excluding ourselves from a greater picture of this divine beauty and light. So we need to come together, but in humility, not arrogance, not with assumptions that I want to give out of the truth that I have. Rather, let God pour into my heart the truth from the other. Let me benefit from the other and arrive at a greater pedestal of godliness. This is what the faith community needs to do constantly, to engage with each other, not merely in formal gatherings, but in every capacity. The other thing that we need to do is, we need to understand that we have a trust of the divine with us that does not belong to us, but that it is to be shared with His creatures, His children. There is a tradition within Islam in which the Prophet is told that on the day of judgment I shall ask you, I was naked, did you clothe me? I was hungry, did you feed me? I was lost, did you guide me? In other words, what God is saying is that if a man is sick, you be my hand that provides the cure. There is another tradition in which God states that on the day of judgment, I shall bring to account every wealthy individual, and I shall say to them that you were the one who held my wealth whilst my family starved. Did you feed them? What the faith community needs to understand is that humanity is in the reflection and the image of God Himself. That those people who do not share God and do not have the presence of God in their lives are cheated, and we are the cause for it. For we do not share the beauty of God with the creatures of God. Now I know in the modern world nobody likes to be preached to. So we need to find ways in which we can then take the goodness of God to the other. We need to care for our brothers and sisters, for humanity at large, and we need to share with them meaningfully. In this consumer society, people find momentary peace and happiness through acquisition of things. But that pleasure is short-lived. In our society, nobody wishes to lose their youthfulness. But we should take pride in the process of aging, for through experience and through frail bones and withered away beings comes the birth of a fresh, youthful, beautiful soul. It is the beginning of the real journey of beauty. We need to come to a stage where we can go beyond the apparent and go to the real essence. We need to share with humanity at large in a language that humanity comprehends. Al-Mahdi Institute was established in the early 90s with a vision of exploring and sharing the human face of Islam. In order to achieve that, the Al-Mahdi's activities were to teach Islam in the modern context to the Muslim youth, to embark upon research within themes that concern us in the modern world, and to give it a human coloring through Islam, and 3, to engage in interfaith activities to share the truth of Islam. But with the passage of time, we began to realize that the Islam that we were searching for and that we were promoting was a product of our own wishful thinking. For indeed, God deserves the souls to approach Him sincerely, to utmost sincerity, and then for Him to suggest the truth as it stands with Him. And therefore now, Al-Mahdi Institute no longer arrogantly claims that it has the human face of Islam that it wants to share. It is now in a position of humility where it says it wants to explore the truth for what it is worth, and that the truth appears to be equally shared by one and all. This chapel could be a mosque, a synagogue, a mandir. What difference would it make? If the name of God is the name going and directing and indicating of the same entity, then what difference does it make whether it's a chapel or a mosque with a crucifix or a star, or a Buddhist temple or a Hindu mandir or a Sikh temple? This is the realization we need to come upon. The house of God is a house of God, not my house. It is heartwarming to see the interfaith community from time to time coming to this chapel and devoting themselves to God. We hope, inshallah, that this will increase in the future. Thank you very much.
Now we come to the presentation of the paintings, which we see as a symbol, really, of what we've been hearing from both Donald and from Sheikh Arif. And I want to introduce or welcome Canon Dr. Andrew Wingate, former principal of the United College of the Ascension, and a friend of the artist Jyoti Sahi, who painted these paintings. Andrew will present them to their new homes.
Can I just begin by thanking Ruth for the organisation today, and Ruxana, and whoever else was involved. I was never a great organiser, but I always had other people to organise. This is a very good example of something somehow has come together extremely well. I also want to pay tribute to Donald, not just as a close friend, but also the one who made the suggestion that these three paintings should come to these three institutes. So I'm not claiming that that was my idea, but it was a moment of extreme insight, I think, when he came forward with that idea. I was principal here from 1990, I think, to year 2000. That was a time of great change. This had been an Anglican college for, I think, about 100 years, and was formed as a missionary training college, and was formed by what was the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel. And Evie here represents that society. It's now called the United Society. But it was a training college to help people prepare to work in Africa and Asia primarily. But in my years here, it changed completely. People began to actually come here from Africa and Asia, much more than went there. And that led a real transformation in our thinking, that actually Christianity was a majority, not in the West, but it was in those churches that had been founded in the previous several hundred years. And this ecumenical chapel, we call it an ecumenical chapel, became a place of prayer, not just for those using Western liturgies, but with liturgies from all over the world. And it was a wonderful place to experience African, Asian, Latin American worship here, as well as occasionally ordinary British worship. And that happened week by week by week, and there's a number of friends here who were from that period, either as tutors or as students. In the year, I think getting on for about 1996, it became ecumenical with the Methodists. So it became Anglican and Methodist, and became the United College of the Ascension. And that was an important step. And we've got Heidi singing later. Where is Heidi? Yeah, and she is the daughter of my colleague. And we were principal and vice principal, but we ran the place together in those happy days. After I left, it remained here for another 6 years, and then there was a financial crisis, and it closed as a Christian college. And it was very anxious making. What would happen to this? There were all sorts of talks. The favourite would have been it would be taken over by the university. Most things are taken over by the university. And I'm glad it wasn't, because it's remained a religious building, and a building of the Spirit, and a building where, as Donald has said, we can be still and know that you are God. And I've been here only once or twice, but I can already feel that. This is a great offering in this, not only this part of Birmingham, but throughout the West Midlands and beyond. When we were here before, I instituted a visiting fellowship. Somebody who came from Africa or Asia, it was nearly always Asia, who was of another religion, who spent 3 months here and came to as our guest, and we learnt so much from that person. I'd like to just mention 2 of those people. One was called Gangadharan, Dr. Gangadharan, who was a Hindu, and he was 3 months here. He came from Chennai, and he came every single day to the service in the morning. Every single day. Most of the Christians didn't come every day. He came every day. And I said, I'm really impressed you're coming like that. Why do you come every day? And he said, oh, because the God I knew in South India and my guru in South India said, when I come here, I must learn something new about God every day. And I can learn something new in your chapel. And he listened to the scriptures and wanted to discuss them at breakfast. Now, most people here were not discussing them at breakfast. They were discussing the lectures they were going to and so on. But that was the spirit of this openness. Another one was Sutadhara, whom one or two of you remember. He was a monk from Sri Lanka. Now, remember, we had some study sessions on the Christian scripture. It was on the first epistle of Paul to the Corinthians. I remember it very well. And I was leading it. And I asked the students to go away and say what they thought chapter 11 was about. Chapter 11 is about the institution of the Eucharist, of the Holy Communion. Do this in remembrance of me. This is my body, this is my blood. Come back next week and say, what do you make of that? Well, they all came back with this churchy answer or that churchy answer. But he came back with, I don't think it's about any of those things at all. Look at the whole passage. And what it says there, Paul says, is if you come to the Eucharist, to the Holy Communion, to worship, and you come with a belly full, or having drunk your heart out, and come and participate, well, your poor brother's, this is going back to what you were saying, your poor brother is down there, can't even come, he hasn't got good enough clothes, then you don't bring life to yourself, you bring death. He said that's what this is about. I've never forgotten those 2 people who came from another religion and here brought life and energy and new insights. So I'm delighted personally that this has now become Al-Mahdi Institute, and I think it's truly in the heritage of this place that Islam is so important, as we know in our world today, and it can be a real witness here. And I'd want to thank the principal very much for his introduction and wish you extreme good fortune as you build up links with these 2 great churches, St. Mary's, Selly Oak, and the Methodist Church. And that I hope to come back after some time and find that really things have been happening between the three of you, that this is not a one-off, but the beginning. Now, these three paintings are painted by Jyoti Sahi. Jyoti means light, and Jyoti is a pioneer. He's a pioneer because most Indian Christian art was, to be frank, very boring. It had been reproductions of what you get in the West, and churches were built as in the West. Of course, that's where true Christianity was thought to have been. But what he said, this is not the case. Actually, the Spirit of God is universal. And the artistic gifts from India, he wanted to make real in the West. So he became a great painter who interpreted biblical stories in the Indian style. Now, this style is, of course, Indian, so it is more Hindu and Buddhist than Islamic. And maybe we need a painter who looks across the Muslim-Christian divide. But these are beautiful paintings, I think, and I have many of his paintings, as several of us, I think, do. I got an email today from somebody who couldn't come, and they said, we went to his place when she was at the college here 15 years ago, and I bought 2 or 3 of his paintings, and they're with me still. They're paintings to meditate with. They're not just to glance at and go. And so I'm glad that we've got them here today, and I want to thank USBG, it's now called US, for having financed the reframing, I suppose you call it, reframing of these 3 paintings. And Evie, please pass that back to headquarters. In a way, they need a lot of interpretation. Jyoti sent a whole lot of information, and we need those to go to the 3 churches, or the 2 churches and here, to remain there so that you can perhaps put up something to tell people who come see what it's about. But this one here with the stoning of Stephen, the one on the right, is the most obvious. Stephen was the first Christian martyr, and after the gospel was removed from Jerusalem, he was the first to die for his faith. He was a persecuted man, and he was, as you can see, stoned. And there's so much suffering. Persecuted groups from all faiths at the moment. We often think it's only Christians who are persecuted. We're all persecuted, and Muslims included. And this is to help us to remember the persecuted people, wherever they are, throughout the world. And I think we can see in the viciousness of them raising those stones, something of the viciousness that we see in much of the violence in the world today. That's reality. The one on the left, that one is the women of Jerusalem. Jesus, you can't see it easily, but can you all see that? Can somebody lift this one up? You can see Jesus here on the left, and these are the women of Jerusalem. And as Jesus was going to the cross, the women were weeping, and he said, don't weep for yourselves, but weep for your city, for your people, for everything that will happen. And this is the burning of Jerusalem happening behind. That this is a lament. Weep. They wanted to weep for him, but he said, don't weep for me, don't weep for yourselves. Weep for the world around you, which is in such pain and turmoil. I think the worst thing we can do is to inure ourselves to the pain around. We need to weep. And many of us must have felt like weeping this week. Yeah. And the other one, the figure in the middle, looks like Jesus, but who does it actually look like as well? Somebody's like this. Yes? Sorry? Who do you think this figure holding their hand here? The Buddha. Yeah. Jyoti is steeped in Buddhism as well as Hinduism, and Jesus here is raising his hand in blessing. But these fellows down here, they've been asleep in the Garden of Gethsemane. He told them to pray, but they went to sleep. And he said, "Don't worry, sleep on, my blessing upon you." And that's the theme there. I mean, it's a much longer theme than that, but that's enough for this evening. So these paintings are going to the three places. We hope not to be isolated one from another, but that there will be a way that people can go and see all three as they make an interfaith pilgrimage in the future. Shall we call out people to take the one? Yes. Could the director come, or whoever you want, Roxana, to take the one for this place? Yeah. I shall be writing to Jyoti this week. If you can send the photos, he'd love to see that. And the women of Jerusalem for St. Mary's.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say, on behalf of Jim Cox, who can't be with us, and on behalf of St. Mary's, I'd like to accept this painting gratefully. We really appreciate, I know the congregation really appreciates the significance of this gift in what it means for the continuation of the spirit of this building. And we really hope we may be able to take part in future events together.
Lovely, thank you. And then the Selly Oak Methodist Church, their minister, Caroline.
Thank you so much. I was thinking this morning when I realised that I wouldn't see Jim because he's a good friend to so many of us, and I thought, but this is a permanent thing that will be in our church and in St. Mary's Church and in this place of prayer, and how wonderful if each year we could somehow do a little tour around so we revisit them and we encourage other people to come and see these beautiful works of art, because I love art. I was hoping to get this one. Because I love the idea that...
No swapping allowed.
No. That in the middle of all the suffering, God is always present. And, thank you. Thank you so much. We shall treasure it. And please do come and see it. And most days of the week, we've got something in the way of tea or coffee going on. So if I were you can come and pray, but you could also come and have a cup of tea with us. And we're good Methodists, so there's usually...
Can I suggest, I just have one thought, Ruth, that once a year, and it could be the anniversary of this day, what is the day, the 18th? On the 18th, there could be a time of prayer in the three churches, the two churches and the mosque. That was just a thought.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, by way of celebration, I want to introduce Arul Israel, who is here somewhere. Arul, there she is. Arul carries a lot of specialness with her, in a way. She's a member of Selly Oak Methodist Church, but she's also the daughter of the final principal of the United College of the Ascension, the Reverend Dr. Israel Salvanagam, who was principal for most of the time that I was here. And I well remember Arul dancing in this chapel when it was a Christian chapel, and I'm absolutely delighted that you're able to come and dance for us again tonight, Arul. Are you going to introduce the theme of the dance?
Yeah, I will go through the meaning of the dance and then I'll dance it. Just to check. Hello everyone. I choreographed this dance. It's called Bharatanatyam. It's a classical Indian dance, and it's choreographed to the story of the creation. And it's just to remember the creation of our God and to appreciate it and enjoy it in this moment. So to start with, when I started dancing, I always liked dancing in a group. So I don't like dancing on my own very much, but I understand that not everybody will be able to just join in and jump with me. So if you're able to, I would like you to just try some movements with your hands. So in this dance, every hand movement has meaning. So I will explain the story, I will do the meaning. If you can see it, follow it if you feel able, but don't worry if you can't. But I don't want to be the only one doing it. I know, I think I've got a little friend here who might join in. Yeah. Okay, so God created this earth. He created the sun and the light that comes from it, the moon, like an L shape, and the light that comes from it, and the land, and there was the sky, and the sea. On the land, there were the trees that grew with fruit and flowers. And also there are animals like the deer. So what I do is, so the middle two fingers with the thumb, so it hides away from the tiger and tries to drink its water. And of course there are like snakes. You have to look quite scary for this. Oh, it's doing beautifully there. And there are also beautiful birds, like a peacock. So you hold these two fingers and then you just do like a peacock. And the birds in the sky. So what I do is I join my thumbs together and I go from one side to the other side of the screen to get the beautiful bird that flies in the sky. And of course in the sea, there is a fish. So just put one hand on top of each other and showing the thing. And even the tiny insects, so I roll my first finger, join the middle finger with the thumb, and go buzz. And it enjoys the nectar of the flower. And of course, he also created the men, as sugary grumpy men. And last but not least, beautiful women. So I hope you can, in this time, think of the creation and enjoy the dance. Hold on one second.
Take us into a different world, a different way of expressing our love for God. And now I want to introduce Heidi Mulrain, who's been mentioned already, the daughter of George Mulrain, and another member of Selly Oak Methodist Church. It seems to be a very talented church.
Hello, good evening. The song I'd like to sing is a song called Lord, I'm Available to You. And it talks about using the talents that you have for God. Okay? So it's Lord, I'm available to you. You gave me my hands to reach out to man, to show him your love and your perfect plan. You gave me my ears, and I can hear your voice so clear. I can hear the cry of sinners, but cannot wipe away their tears. You gave me my voice to speak your word, to sing out your praises to those who never heard. But with my eyes I see a need for more availability. I've seen hearts that have been broken, so many people to be freed. Lord, I'm available to you. My will I give to you. I'll do what you say do. Use me, Lord, to show someone the way, and then enable me to say, my storage is empty, and I am available to you. Now I'm giving back to you all the tools you gave to me. My hands, my ears, my eyes, my voice, so you can use them as you please. I have emptied out my cup so that you can fill me up. Now I'm free, I just want to be more available to you. Lord, I'm available to you. My will I give to you. I'll do what you say do. Use me, Lord, to show someone the way, and then enable me to say, my storage is empty, my storage is empty, my storage is empty, and I am available to you.
Beautiful, thank you, Heidi. And now Kate, who's going to sing a blessing for us, I believe.
This blessing is a traditional Celtic one, I'm sure some of you will know. The choir would have sung it, so I am the sole representative. May the rose rise with you, may the wind be your wave at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face, may the rain fall soft upon your feet, and as you tread life's path, may God hold you in a hollow of his hand. May the rose rise with you, may the wind be your wave at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face, may the rain fall soft upon your feet, until we meet again. May God hold you in the hollow of his hand.
All that remains is to say thank you to all those who've contributed to the treasures that we've received this evening. Some of us have been reminded of treasured memories. Most of us have had new treasures to enjoy this evening. And I would just like to say that I couldn't be more pleased that those treasures are being handed to the safekeeping of the Al-Mahdi Institute. And we wish you well for the future. We're now being offered refreshments by the Al-Mahdi Institute and a chance to meet and chat with each other. So we thank them very much for their hospitality. Good night.